Hi, everybody. This is Mimi on Hidden Mysteries, and welcome to another show. This is October 15th, 2015, and we're coming to you live from the New York area. And we're here each month as we explore an array of unusual topics and endeavor to seek out answers to mysterious concepts and age-old legends. And Reverend Maria, as usual, is my co-host for this evening. How are you doing, Maria?
Wonderful. I'm really looking forward to this show. And Halloween.
Yeah. And Halloween, our favorite time of the year. I love this time of the year. And Reverend Maria, as you hopefully know, and if you don't, she is an internationally known psychic from Budapest, Hungary, and a European shaman, and she is also a published author of many, many books, spiritual life coach, a metaphysical practitioner, and a public speaker who has traveled to many places to speak on spiritual, psychic, and paranormal topics. And check out Maria's website at mariadeandrea.com, or use the links below our show's description here on Blog Talk to go directly to her website, as well as the book she has authored. I have personally researched many topics on the paranormal spirituality for many years and produced a local cable show for 14 years on this very subject. So if you'd like to see some of my recent episodes on MQuest TV, you can either go to mquestmedia.com to see some of these, as well as articles on the Soul Quest newsletter, and if you'd like to leave comments or questions on the blog there as well. And for anyone who would like to join us in the chat room, we are open and ready, and I will relay any questions or comments you may have for Maria. And if anyone would like to call in and ask a question in regards to our topic for this evening, you can call us at 929-477-1080. If you have any questions on any other issues that you would like to speak with Reverend Maria personally, you can call her at 631-559-1248. And so, being that it's October, this is the month for the harvest. It's known for the month as the harvest and for things that go bump in the night, and a time when the veil between our world and the spirit realm is at its thinnest. It's a reminder of our eternal connection with the past and its ancient rituals, and reconnecting with the divine and with those who have passed over the threshold from this world to the next. It is also time for old folklores that have remained a part of us throughout the centuries. So let's take a walk down historical lane. Maria, why is this time of the year, especially around Halloween, so special for us?
Well, first of all, we all love Halloween, but it's really special for everybody, as you were saying earlier, because Halloween is the best time out of the whole year to manifest or deal with spirits or our ancestors, those who passed on, deities, angels, and basically any of the other various realms. So out of the whole year, it really is when the veil is the thinnest between the two realities of man and spirit. It's not connected to religion. It's an energetic force. So All Hallows Eve is very ancient and really based on pagan beliefs. Now, the energy forces are the same, and that's why I said it has nothing to do with religion. Energy is energy, and it's been around way before us, and it's going to be around forever. So on All Hallows Eve, it's a time for connecting to the other side and manifesting on a different frequency. So at that point on Halloween, the frequency is at a much higher level. So it's easier for all of us to focus and to manifest and to get the energies out there so that we can create things in our lives that are positive. So it's like having a strong battery charger. It's easier to get through it this time of the year. So we work on it.
Right. It is a time of ritual. It's a time for bringing in the new and relinquishing the old. What are some of the rituals that have been performed at this time of the year?
Well, there really are several rituals, and we really do work with all the elements, earth, air, fire, water, the ethers. However, Halloween, the rituals on Halloween really deal more with fire primarily. They had fire festivals on that day in ancient times, and they commemorated the dead. Fire also represents the light which keeps the dark powers at bay. And that's why we use them, because on All Hallows Eve, we're opening doors to new possibilities, but we're also keeping the dark away. Okay, so through fire, lightning ceremonies, or candles. So fire actually burns away negative energy. So we work strictly with positive energy and only tuning into that in order to cancel out the dark energies. Even though we do that all the time, when we're doing it on All Hallows Eve, it's that extra battery charger. We're getting through easier because of the veil being the thinnest. And the etheric plane has a lot of power on that day. Okay, so we consciously work with it. Remember, nature is fluid, so it's always changing. We simply understand this and work with the forces so that we're all in sync.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. How can people make the best use of this holiday? What can they do?
Let's see. There actually is a spell that everybody can do for themselves at this time. Because, we work on it all the time, but there are some that everybody can do. So as an example, this is something that you can do yourself at that time, and that can help in basically getting help from your positive ancestors. And I'm saying positive ancestors because I don't honestly assume all mine were positive. We don't know.
Right.
Somebody has black beard as an ancestor.
Yeah, really. Skeletons in the closet.
So we're focused on calling in positive ancestors, and really people don't realize, but when we're talking about ancestors, if your parents or your grandparents passed on, they are considered your ancestors. So first, to do you need to do some form of protection. So as an example, you can say, divine power, protect and guide me, or, substitute the name of whatever you happen to call your source. And for the spell, you will need, you need a white candle of any size. And by the way, a tip is that you might want to go with a small birthday candle. So it doesn't have to be something like a 7-day candle. It can be something really tiny. The point is just to have that candle, the white candle. Then you need a bowl or an ashtray or aluminum foil so that when you burn paper, the ashes go in there and it doesn't harm anything. You need matches. And you need white paper and black ink. The white is to keep everything positive, and the black is always for power. So this is performed on the day of Halloween. So technically, what you're going to do is you're going to focus on what your intent is, what you're creating in your life. Okay. At the top of the paper, white paper, black ink. At the top of the paper, you would write, through divine power, or whoever your source is. You would put, in a perfect way, because we don't want to harm anybody to get what we're trying to manifest, by accident. Okay? And then I would put this or better at the top because we don't want to accidentally limit ourselves. Then you would write your intent, worded in a positive way, whether it be a relationship, finance, friendship, it can be health, knowledge, or really basically any other goal. And then at the bottom of the paper, you would write, thank you, divine power, or again, substitute your own word for divine power. And under that, you would write, so it is. Do not write this as a request. You're not asking for anything. This is not a prayer. This is not a request. Okay? You're going to write it as a fact and declare it as if it's already happening. We're putting out to the universe what we're manifesting, and we know it's coming in. It's a statement of fact. And then you can really do it at any time between midnight on Halloween morning to midnight the day after Halloween. So you would place the paper into a bowl or whatever you're going to burn the paper in, put a white candle anywhere near you, then you're going to focus on your intent. Okay. Remember to call in protection first, then you light the candle. Then as you burn the candle, verbally or non-verbally, because the universe hears you either way, just depends on what you're comfortable with, you're going to call to your positive ancestors to come to you and help in manifesting whatever your intent is. Okay? You tell them what it is, and then you stay focused on what your intent is until all the paper is literally burned to ashes. Okay, now, if it doesn't burn to ashes, because sometimes it doesn't right away, okay, then you just keep relighting it until it does burn to all of it to ashes. And when completed, you leave the candle, by the way, burning until it all goes out by itself. That's why I said you may want a birthday candle. And if the candle goes out first, that's fine too. Okay. So, by the way, don't wait, like I said, for the candle to burn out in order to throw the ashes outside, okay? And you throw them to the wind. And the reason you're throwing it outside is if you're throwing it out, say, in a garbage can or somewhere in your home, it's the same as if you would have held on to the energies. You want to spread them out to the universe to have them go to work for you and to manifest. And then you thank your ancestors for coming and for their help. And then you need to tell them to go forth, because you have to send them out to help you and to do the work for you. If you don't thank them and tell them to go, you're going to have a house full of ancestors. You really need to let them go. Okay.
I mean, they'll be like relatives that never leave. They'll be relatives that never leave.
The only good thing is they're not going through all your food, all your
They'll be just like watching you. They'll be just like sitting and watching you. Boy, I'll tell you.
We're going to have to put up a little privacy sign, or don't enter into this one room.
Yeah, really.
Right? Oh, yeah. And, okay, as a last step, then you thank divine power. And like I said, if the candle goes out first, that's perfectly fine. But don't forget, you really do want to send your ancestors to go out to work for you, because we don't really want them grounded wherever you happen to have done the ritual, or hanging out with you wherever you go. They're not going to do anything for you and bring any of the results back if they're hanging.
Right. You got to set them out.
You don't want them hanging out.
Yeah. So, there are so many traditions and folk tales that have come down through time that we still take part in, even though we don't exactly know why. And the jack-o'-lantern, for instance, goes back hundreds of years. Some think to, like, Celtic origins, and with different versions on the same old story. One of these versions is from Silver Ravenwolf's book on Halloween, and she tells the story of a lazy farmer named Jack who tricks the devil into promising that when he dies, he wouldn't be allowed into heaven. So Jack went on with his life, doing as he pleased, drinking, gambling, stealing other men's wives, thinking that he had carte blanche to do whatever he pleased because he wasn't going to get into hell anyway. So when Jack finally, he wasn't stupid, sort of. When Jack finally died, he goes to heaven and he's told he doesn't belong there. So Jack then goes to hell, but since the devil kept his promise, he wasn't allowed, in there unless he exchanged his soul for another. So the devil gave him some coal to light his way, and Jack placed it in a turnip, and in those days they used turnips for these things, and set off with this task in hand. On Halloween night, when the veil is at its thinnest, Jack and his light wanders the earth searching for someone to take his place. Of course, when this story came over here to America, a pumpkin was used instead of a turnip, and by carrying this, Jack would think you were one of the lost souls like him. It would just pass you by. Halloween is also known, to be a time for divination. Unmarried women used mirrors to reveal their future husbands. And as for bobbing for apples, seizing an apple in one bite was considered good fortune. I certainly hope you wouldn't swallow it too. I don't know how much good fortune that could be. But
would be funny.
Yeah, really. Well, not so much for the person doing it.
Yeah, right.
Why was divination?
It's funny how all these traditions come about when you really think about it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and why was divination such an important part of this holiday? Why were they so much into divination at that point?
Well, it's actually funny, and by the way, we're still doing divination mainly for the same reasons. But at that point, because we all go through phases, sometimes, sometimes people are open to spiritual things, sometimes they're not. The witch burnings were not a good time for that.
Yeah, really.
But, society goes up and down, kind of like in waves, At that point, they were much more open to it. And the point of divination is this. If you know what's coming up ahead of time and it's positive, then, you're going to be happy. You know that you can work with those energies. You might be able to enhance them, and you're going to get all excited about it. And part of it is just by being focused on knowing it's a positive outcome, you're actually attracting that situation in more. Because your energy is kind of like a magnet. It's actually pulling it in because you're so focused on, something's going to work out. Okay? If something is negative in divination, if it tells you that, as an example, you own a store and it's really not going to do well, okay, then it's also going to tell you with divination what you can do to improve it so that it changes the situation, and all of a sudden everybody's coming to your store. You know, because you have to remember at those times, you know, it was more villages, and you know, they were more dependent on each other than we are today.
Right.
So
right.
it was very important to them to know, you know, if the harvest, as an example, is going to be good or not, because then they can readjust what they're doing. So a lot of the forms of divination, like you were saying, they were using mirrors, you know, or basically any form of glass, and that could be a crystal ball. Okay, and basically, when you're looking at a crystal ball or a mirror, what it does is when you unfocus your physical vision, you start seeing images when you're working from a psychic level. So it actually gives you clairvoyant pictures. Sometimes they would use stones because you can throw stones, and depending on who's doing the divination, they would know exactly how it's connected and, you know, which stone means what. So you can do actually reading off that. And they also used to throw sticks, and they went with, like herbs as an example. Okay, with herbs, they would actually use herbs to place them in different configurations to see what, as an example, what light from the moon, what part of the herb is going to hit and when. So some of it would be more of a timing issue, like something's going to come up in 3 months because the light of the moon hit a certain angle on the herb. It's actually really interesting. Okay.
Wow.
But the main point was to help you improve your life. And a lot of times women that were single, like you said, they would check on, well, do I have somebody coming in? Is it somebody positive? You know, and they would look at it, okay, if I don't have somebody coming in the next 6 months, I'm going to go focus on something else, or I'm going to try harder to meet somebody else. So it just gave them a way to gauge. But it was really interesting because the whole point was to improve your life. But because they were in the middle of a celebration, to most people it looked like, you know, they were having fun and they weren't taking it seriously, and they were just doing that as a fun game, as an example. But they took it very seriously at the time because it helped them gauge from Halloween to the next Halloween. So it was very positive.
You know, our tradition for, for trick-or-treating, for instance, was originally a Celtic practice of leaving food offerings for the dead. It can also be traced back to the European art of rhyming, which was going from house to house, and mumming, which is a precursor to the American version of trick-or-treating. In rhyming, adults and children, you know, as they went from house to house, they would knock on doors, giving a performance, sometimes a rhyme. They would be compensated with money or food, depending on the region. Mumming included costuming and performance. In medieval Europe, on All Souls' Day, beggars sought alms for prayers for the dead. In 16th century Scotland, young men wore horrific masks and went to homes or shops carrying turnip lanterns, and there's those all-purpose turnips again. They always seem to follow us, singing rhymes, begging for apples, nuts, and copper coins. And these rowdy ones were called geysers. It seems that dressing in scary costumes tends to hark back to that same old story of Jack and the turnip lantern. If you disguise yourself on Halloween, then the mischievous dead wouldn't recognize you as that of the living and would most likely leave you alone. And as for the unfortunately blemished reputation of the black cat, during the witch trials, the inquisitors claimed that witches could transform themselves into cats. They gained quite a negative reputation when it was thought that cats were demons. It was said that witches worshipped the devil as a cat, and medieval Christians tortured and burned them along with the witches. They would also burn cats for yearly festivals and wicker cages in accordance to church beliefs. Horrible ideas, but, you know, unfortunately people were fearful, and these were the things that they did back in those days. Do you have any other items that you might want to add to these Halloween folk tales that you know of?
Actually, there's a couple of really interesting things. And, oh, by the way, remember we were saying about how I have all these books out all over Amazon, Kindle, Nook, whatever. I have a book out called Your Personal Mega Power Spells. You know, it's for love, luck, prosperity. And part of it is self-empowerment through Wicca and white magic. Because basically we do all forms. Yeah, so even though I'm basically an interfaith minister, we do all forms
Right.
of magic and spells, whatever works for the situation, as long as it is only positive. You and I are always talking about how we only do positive, and
Right.
people are going to go, oh, it's them again, positive. you know? But as an example, I always thought this was interesting. When you see pictures of witches with brooms,
Yep.
and the broom is actually considered an herb, like straw, broom. It's actually called a broom because of the herb that it's made out of. And obviously it looks more like straw. And what they were actually doing was they would go into a circle usually, and they would start in the middle, and they would use the brooms to get rid of negative energy. So when they're sweeping out the negative energy from wherever they are. So as an example, in a house, originally, in the tradition of the pagans, the reason that they were sweeping out the house was not just because they're cleaning the house from dirt. Because of the broom herb itself, it was considered that you're cleaning out the negative energies at the same time. And that's why we still use brooms the same way, but we're thinking more of cleaning the house, but it's actually supposed to be taking out negative energy because of the vibration of the herb itself. And as you were saying with the black cat, that a black cat was originally considered lucky.
Funny how that changed.
Right, go figure, right?
Yeah, really. Well, under what conditions was it considered good luck?
Well, they looked at it as because it was a solid black color, because most cats are multicolors. Okay. So they looked at it, black really represents power. It isn't negative. Black represents power, and the way the power is used depends on you, if you are positive or negative. Power is neutral. Nature is neutral. So they looked at it as, because it was all black, it was all power, and that's why it brought you luck. It's bringing power into your life. Okay. So as an example, when you're dealing with the energies of black, remember I was saying earlier, white paper, black ink, because what you're doing is you're using your focus, and then the color actually adds to your focus. But nature is neutral. So as an example, and I know I've said this before when you and I've been talking, I always look at it as an example. If it's raining and you have a drought on a farm, it's wonderful. You're really happy it's raining. And if it's raining and my neighbor is building the ark, then not so much. But rain is neutral. It's nature. So when you're dealing with the broom as an example, and you're focused on sending the negative energy out of the house as an example, okay, you're using the laws of nature, the energy of the plant itself, its vibration, to help you get rid of the negative energy. So we work with nature. People always think, oh, you're controlling nature. No. But we can't understand the laws of nature to work with them. And that's why they use spells so much, because when you're using a spell, it's adding the vibration to it. You're adding in everything for whatever that purpose is that you're working on, such as getting rid of the negative energy. Okay. And the reason, by the way, spells are normally in rhyme form is because the rhythm, it creates a vibration. So the vibration itself has power. It's like, you know how when you go to a drumming circle, as an example, or just when you hear drums or different types of music on the radio, the rhythm in it either picks you up or makes you depressed or makes you sad or happy, right?
Right.
So they rhyme usually when they're doing spells, because when we do that, and usually you make up your own, but when we're doing spells like that, the rhyme and the rhythm and the vibration of that, say, equating to drumming as an example, puts more force behind it.
Fascinating. My goodness, fascinating. I just had a quick question. When we were talking earlier about the veil being lifted and this being a highly energetic period of the year, now why is it that this period is that way? I mean, why is it that the veil is that at its thinnest now? I mean, is it because of the way the planets are in, in place, or what's it all about?
Basically, it's cyclical. So what happens is the energies are always in flux. They're always fluid. So the fluidity, as an example, it's like waves. It goes up and down, and at some point in the cycle, you have a starting point and an ending point. And this point really combines the two. So the veil, it's kind of, how can I put it? Because of the cycle that it's in, at this point, the veil is the thinnest so that we can get through to the other realms easier. It's not that we can't get through otherwise if we know what we're doing. And that's why I'm saying we always do something for protection. But when it's the thinnest in this part of the cycle, and that's why it's every year, in this part of the cycle, we can do a lot more. We can work with it better. We can manifest quicker, and we can manifest something that normally we might think, it's going to be a challenge, like getting a raise or moving up in your job. Sometimes people think, this is going to be so difficult because there's nobody friendly at the job. Now, if you're focused on that as an example, or making new friends, or whatever you find difficult normally, now it's going to hit better to manifest because the energies are all in agreement with you, for lack of a better term. So that's why when we're doing something for Halloween, a lot of times we use the burned paper because it's a fire ritual. And when you think as an example, we have the Egyptian flame ritual, which is a different timing, but the point is that fire energy is active. It's moving. It's not passive. When you think of water, you think really of water flowing, nice and passive and calm. People forget about waterfalls, oceans. Depends on the movement. But fire is always active. So that's why they use it more on Halloween. There's more of a push behind it.
And another thing that I also wanted to, I also heard was the fact that how we dress for Halloween sort of reflects how we want our year to go. So let's say if you dress in something that sort of emulates something successful or abundance creating, that is how you're going to create that for the year. Somebody said that to me, and I thought it was rather interesting. What's your insight on that?
Well, you have 2 points. One of the points is that you're supposed to dress to scare away anything that's negative. Okay. So you want to be scary so that you're scaring away any negative energy, negative entities. Like you were saying with the turnip, which I find is really funny and interesting.
Yeah.
Walking around with that, because you can just picture that in your mind. Okay. So part of it is you're supposed to be scaring them away. You're not supposed to be like really, really cute. But with people that are older, not children, people that are older where they understand manifesting, they say you're going to a party. If you're not dressing the part of somebody successful, say as an example, I love Einstein. I'm not dressing like Einstein. But if you want to work on something as an example where you're dealing with very high intellect or science or spirituality, you can carry a picture on Halloween and put it in your wallet or in your pocket or your pocketbook because it's still representative. If you're wearing a costume that represents the type of person you want to be. So as an example, if it's somebody that's a wonderful chef and you're focused on that and you're dressed as like a funny chef or whatever, it's going to heighten that ability a little bit more.
Okay, I just want to, we're running out of time, so I just want to let people know that they can get in touch with you at this number, 631-559-1248, and you can visit Maria at mariadeandrea.com. And don't forget to view us on MQuest Media. If you have any comments, you can go to facebook.com/MQuestMedia. Thank you all for joining us this evening on Hidden Mysteries, and be sure to mark us as your favorite. So have a nice night, and thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Hidden Mysteries.
And thank you for coming, and may God bless you abundantly.